Should be live.
All right, hey everybody, welcome to Hump Day Hangouts episode 265. Today is the 4th of December, 2019. We have got some good stuff to go over, but real quick, want to say hello to everybody. We've got all the guys here. So Bradley, how you doing today?
I'm good. Happy to be here. Excited about it being December. I can't believe Christmas is upon us already. The end of the year, it seems like it flew by in the blink of an eye, but happy to be here. So
Fair enough. Hernan, how about yourself?
I'm doing good, actually. Yeah, same thing. Same. I couldn't believe we're nearly the last month of the decade, actually. So yeah, we're trying to make it count here. Hope that you're making it count too. Excited to be here.
Yeah.
Awesome, Marco. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Excited. I mean, these are good times. Google is trying to go neural in local search. And I mean, we've been planning for this for years. It seems like, right? Because we've been telling people brand, keyword plus brand plus keyword association, entity. I mean, we've been hammering this point home over and over again. And guess what? The two recent updates, October, right? Big Bert, everyone was all running around with like a chicken without a head because they got hit. It's impossible if you're only affecting 10% of the searches for every SEO in the world to be hit. It's impossible anyway. And then we had the one in November, right? And so it's entity. It's all about brand. It's all about the keywords associated to your brand according to the entities and their relationships and their relevance. And guess who's been teaching brand and keyword relationships and relevance and trust and authority and activity? Does anybody know? Could anybody please give me a fucking answer? Who's been sharing this for about 4 or 5 fucking years? Good times, man.
So you could say
I'm killing it. Like the attorney niche. I got this Beverly Hills. I'm killing it. I'm murdering it, man. And get, you know what? It's the easiest thing in the world when it's math against math. And that's all it comes down to when you know what you're doing. I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough. This is, it just made me think of you, Marco, slightly off topic, but I just saw that Amazon AWS is bringing on their own quantum computing service. So something you might be interested in if you haven't seen it already.
I'm already in quantum. Shh, don't tell anyone.
Sounds good. Hey, Chris, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Happy to be here. It's a bit cold here, but that's the way I like it, because cold means I'm 10 times more productive.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm going to get out in the rain today after this. But anyways, I wanted to say too real quick, if this is your first time joining us, thanks for coming. You're in the right place. You can always come here. Go to semanticmastery.com/HD questions to ask your SEO digital marketing questions. We will do our best to give you the answers you need. And if we can't, we will certainly point you in the right direction. In the meantime, what you can do is subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, if you're wondering where to get started with Semantic Mastery, this is the right place. Show up every week, ask your questions, get answers. But also at the same time, go grab the battle plan. All right. Battleplan.semanticmastery.com. Not going to read it to you. Go check it out. It's a hell of a deal. We've got some kick-ass bonuses that we bundled with that. So pick that up. And then if you're ready to start growing your digital marketing agency, then come join us in the mastermind. Then you're our type of person. If you're coming to Hump Day Hangouts, if you've read the battle plan and that's where you want to go, then we definitely want to have you in the mastermind. You can find out more at mastermind.semanticmastery.com. And like many of you guys did, purchase done-for-you services as you're growing your agency or as you're doing consulting at MYGB.co, whether it's syndication networks, ROAS drive stacks, press releases, link building, embeds, with a lot more coming. And of course, the SEO Shield, which we've recently talked about, and Bradley has got a little bit more to share on that today. But again, head over to MYGB.co, and there's some more great stuff coming for the Christmas holidays. Not only just deals at MYGB on done-for-you services, but we, along with some guest speakers, including Rob from MYGB, are going to be doing an awesome holiday special Hump Day Hangout. So set your calendar, set your reminders for the 18th of December. And we're going to have some great stuff there, some more details, but just make sure you show up for that. It's going to be a good one. So with that said, Bradley, do you want to talk some more about the SEO Shield?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me grab the screen. I've got a little presentation just with some slides to kind of explain what this is. There was a question. I posted it in the chat box area of the Hump Day Hangout page. There was a question on one of our YouTube videos on our YouTube channel about the SEO Shield and the different components. And it was the question. In fact, let me just grab the screen and then I'll even read the question and then we'll get into a brief presentation where we can just talk about this on a high level, guys. We're not going into this in depth. There's really no need to. It's beyond the scope of the training today. But let me click through here. Oh shit, I didn't want to do that. Yeah, that's not what I wanted to do. So how do I close that? Okay. So Rob did an intro video on the SEO Shield, and there was a question, this one by Cleaners Joe's. Hello, this is fascinating. If I purchase the SEO Shield, do I get a course or some type of training that explains what all the different components are in your video? If not, where can I get it? So that's really where this little presentation that I put together today was just kind of a high level overview as to what the different components are, why they're important. That's it. So we're going to kind of keep this kind of quick. We're not going to go into real depth, far into depth. If you guys have any questions about it, you can certainly post them on the page. I know Rob is going to be doing something more in depth that will go through each component in a lot more detail. So, I don't want to step on his toes, but I did want to get some of this information out there because I know that there's going to be additional questions that come our way about this. So the SEO Shield explained, MGYB stores where you can buy it. That's what Marco and Rob coined that term for what we've developed over the last several years using Google properties and tier 1 branded entity assets, in other words, to create kind of a shield, a firewall around our main money site, right? Which would be our primary asset. It's a way to solidify and validate the entity. So the main components of this, we're going to talk about the money site just briefly and how MGYB has some services that can help you at ground zero, right? Which would be the money site. It's the epicenter or your golden frame. That's where everything should begin. If you're using a money site for your project. Google My Business Profile, we're not going to talk much about that because we don't offer any services in MGYB for that at the moment. But again, that's something that would be part of it if you're doing local. Syndication network, RYS Reloaded Stack and G-Site, the ID page, which is very, very important, very powerful as well. Press Advantage organization page, we've made that an integral part of our SEO Shield. And in citations, once again, that's for local projects. So we're not really going to talk about that here. The main site, keyword research. If you go to mgyb.co to our store and take a look at our keyword research packages, you'll see that we can build out, provide you with a keyword research package, especially the deep keyword research, which is a complete list of all the relevant terms for your niche, your topic. It's an all-inclusive list of keywords, right? And it's compiled and organized in a very specific way that clustered into categories, suggested silo structures. It provides all the keywords that you're going to need for your website, for content marketing, and blogging, for your site build itself. Again, we'll have suggested silo structures in there. RYS Reloaded Stack. When you order an RYS Reloaded Stack, one of the parts of one of the things that we request when you order it is a list of keywords. And some people don't really have a really big list of keywords, at least not the relevant ones. And so this would give you all the keywords that you need for that, as well as for link building. So Marco, before I move to the next slide, you want to comment on that? You're muted.
Sorry, I was talking into a muted back. No, that's fine.
Okay. So again, keyword research is from MGYB is one of the first steps. Like, again, even if you've already got your site structure in place, I guarantee you that you will learn a lot from the keyword research report. It will give you new ideas. It will help you with your content marketing. It will also help you with your link building and RYS campaigns because you'll have all the keywords from market level. And I mean, it's crazy because it'll separate the keywords into commercial intent, informational queries, all that kind of stuff. It's really, really powerful. It's huge. It takes our the worker that produces them a couple of days to produce the keyword report. So it's totally worth it for the cost. I don't know what your time is worth, but I'm not going to spend 2 days doing keyword research if I can work on higher level stuff. And so I'd rather just hire it out. So there's that.
We're actually investing, what is it, 24, 48 man up. I'm going to call them man hours, although they're girls, the VAs that do it. Are sorry, not girls, but women. They're the ones who do it. They do a fantastic job of setting everything up, and we keep adding to it. We just added some really neat tabs in there, and we do need to create a video on the entire process that we do. This is just fantastic, the way that they come up with everything under the sun and everything imaginable that's related to the main keyword.
Yeah, and I wanted to pull this up too, if I can find it really quickly. The mind map. Here we go. This is a PDF that Rob created, showing all the different components within the SEO Shield, and obviously there's a lot of additional points that you could go take a look at in here. But that's why I said I just wanted to keep it on a high level. These are all the different pieces that can be applied to what we call the SEO Shield. And it's very, very powerful. And that's what we do. We just keep repeating that process over and over and over again for our projects, and they work over and over and over again, time and again. So the syndication network, that's always our first. Again, this is talked about in the battle plan, guys. Most of these things are talked about in the battle plan. The syndication network is always the first thing that we do. That helps to solidify the brand or the entity, right? It expands the semantic footprint. Footprints are not a bad thing in the semantic web. You want to increase your brand's footprint, the entity footprint, by validating it across other sites. So again, that's why we do the syndication networks. Even if you're not going to syndicate content to the network, you should have a syndication network. Okay. Honestly, I've seen in the last year or so over and over again where creating a new project, setting up a website or even a single page landing page, and then just connecting a syndication network to it that's been branded, everything interlinked and linking back to the primary asset. And all of a sudden it'll rank for its branded term, where it might have been on page 3 or 4 beyond. That's happened with my real estate business. We've had it happen with several of our members as well. So again, having a syndication network, even if you're not going to be syndicating content to it right away, is absolutely critical. So we've been building syndication networks for years, and you can get them at MYGB. And again, these are built the way that we have developed them, and for a very specific purpose, and it works incredibly well. They're built manually too. So it expands the semantic footprint. It also can be used for content amplification. So once again, you publish content to your blog or your money site, or excuse me, your YouTube channel, and it will automatically syndicate out across those branded profiles. So you get expanded reach, right? So that's content amplification. You can add the profiles, the branded profiles, to the same as structured data for the following types: organization markup, corporation markup, local business markup. So it's basically the structured data where you're telling the search bots, right? It's the data that is the language specifically designed for the search bots and for the semantic web algorithm. And you're telling it, hey, this is us on all these other locations. Go check, you'll see. And that's what the same as attributes are for. And that kind of the ID page can do that as well. You want all of those combined. And it also becomes the syndication network. The profiles in there become a link building target. Beyond just the profiles, if you have particular content that you're trying to rank, or products or services that you're trying to get more exposure for, if you're syndicating content from your blog to your syndication network, you can actually take the syndication network published URLs for that particular post and do separate link building campaigns to those with very specific types of anchor text within the link building campaigns. And now you can actually start to push specific products or services. So specific pages or even entire silos, if you understand how to structure your site properly and do silo structure correctly and interlinking correctly, it creates buoyancy throughout the entire silo. So again, you can get very specific with how you build links to your syndication network. It doesn't just have to be the profile URLs. It can be to specific content targets as well. So very, very powerful. Marco, any comment on that before I move on?
No, go ahead, go.
All right. RYS reloaded stacks. This is one of the most powerful things you can possibly do. But again, it's an additional component. RYS stack plus a G site minimum. There's also the option with the Twitter account. which you can, I recommend that as well. But at the very minimum, you want to do an RYS stack and a G site. Validates and solidifies the brand using Google's own domains. It produces theme relevancy as primarily, especially if you structure your drive stack. We're going to send it to you delivered based around your primary keyword in your entity, right? And we're going to start to create that relationship through the association between your primary keyword and your brand. But then once you have it, you can go in and actually clone the internal folders and files and start to mirror the theme or the structure of your main money site, which is called theme mirroring. It's very, very powerful. That's what we recommend, not only in your drive stack, but also in your G site. So again, you go in and you create pages that correspond with pages on your website. And then now you have your drive stack folders. And we talked about this in the MGYB webinars. If you go to the MGYB store, click on the webinars button at the top, you can actually go back and watch best practices for RYS stacks, and you'll get a lot more information about what we're talking about when it comes to theme mirroring. So it produces topical relevancy, or theme relevancy, excuse me, both for topical relevancy and geographic and location relevancy if it's for a local project, okay? But remember, these can be used, local is relative, as Marco always says, so it doesn't have to just be for a local project. It also siphons authority directly from Google, and once again, becomes a primary link building target, guys. You can throw kitchen sink spam at drive stacks and G sites, and it will help it to rank. It will automatically filter the content back through any negative link juice. It doesn't matter. Okay. We've had test after test after test on that. The ID page, or what we call an iframe loop. It's very, very powerful. It's not just for local. Originally, that's what we kind of developed that out for, but it is not just for local. It's for a way to reference the entity itself. It's basically telling Google and the semantic web, it's saying, hey, this is a point of reference for our entity, for this particular entity, corporation, organization, local business, and this is where data can be found about this entity to help validate it. Okay, so very, very powerful. That's why we call it a semantic hub. Validates and solidifies the brand or the entity, provides a primary URL for the ID location, entity info for the machine learning search bots. Okay, embedded iframes act as bidirectional do follow links. So that's why we do the iframe stacking within the actual ID page as well as the G site, because it's so very, very powerful, guys. You can just, again, you can pass so much page rank. Nobody talks about that anymore, but through to your primary asset, your money site, without it causing any sort of harm through all these iframes. Incredibly powerful. You create a mirror in mirror type of effect. It also becomes the ID page is a great embed target for doing an embed run, and then link building target as well. And also remember, you can do embeds and then have link building done to the embeds. So that's all we provide those services on MGYB as well. And all of the link building embed services were developed specifically for our SEO Shield method. So again, you can do this on your own outside, but we've got a lot of experience. Our master link builder, Dedia, he's been doing this for us for years. He's been working with Semantic Mastery methods, and he's just got a lot of power built out. Go ahead, Marco.
Yeah, on iframes, there are a whole lot more than just bidirectional do follow links. There are a whole lot more, especially the way that they're stacked on an ID page. Okay. Because what happens was they become incrementally stronger until they become exponential, and that's what happens. And they're passing power. We can't really go in there and see what it is that they're passing. We don't know if page rank accrues, if ranking score accrues, if both accrue. What we do know is that the power that they pass is such that they act like do follow links and just push all that power to wherever it is that you're accruing that page rank. And that's, getting all of that bouncing back and forth between the iframes and between the stacks is what actually helps the endpoint to accrue all of the page rank and ranking score, which is how you see that the G site ranking, which is how you see when you deliver the power into a GMB, for example, it pops it up in the 3-pack. When you deliver it to the money site, it starts ranking for crazy keyword terms. But that's also because the on page on the money site needs to be right.
Yeah, and so Pearltrees is also part of that. Pearltrees is it's a site. It's free that you can go create an account on. It's very powerful because it's part of the ID page build. It provides another powerful iframe to the loop. It's also a semantic hub. You can import an entire RYS stack with damn near a click of a button. It's incredibly powerful. It becomes, once again, an embed and a link building target. So again, that's kind of built into the ID page stack is what we call it. Okay. So lastly, press advantage organization page. You know, we've worked very closely with Jeremy, one of the co-founders, co-owners of Press Advantage. And so he's actually built a lot of features into the Press Advantage, which has got very powerful press releases, a great network of sites, and also the organization page, which is on the Press Advantage domain, becomes very powerful because it, once again, is an iframe hub. It validates the brand. The page accepts company schema, right? So whether that's organization or local business schema markup, or you know, corporation, it could be as well. You can actually add the structured data to the organization page, but also the press release. The press releases themselves that you can publish can accept additional schema, article or news article. Now you have to have your own account to do that, but you can set up a brand page through the press release order service through MYGB. We use Press Advantage as the distribution network, and you'll get an organization page if you order press releases from us. Okay. So PRs provide a good source of backlinks, a lot of them too. And theme mirror PR silos are capable. In other words, I've done some training on that. You can go back through to the MYGB store, go take a look at the webinar button again, and you'll see where I talk about PR silos, and PR stacking and the PR silos, press release silos. And that's how you can actually daisy chain those together, just like you would within supporting articles within a silo on your website. So again, it's about theme mirroring, and this time you're just using press releases to do it. So very, very powerful. And once again, the Press Advantage organization page, as well as the individual press releases, become embed targets and link building targets. Okay, so very, very powerful. So that's what the SEO Shield, once again, if we go back and take a look at this, there's a lot to this. There's a lot more to it, but I wanted to kind of give a high level overview of what is available, and why we provide those services in MYGB, and what it is that they're actually doing. Very powerful. And remember, guys, it's about putting the whole thing together, right? The sum is greater than, how's that saying go? The sum is greater than the sum of the parts, right?
The whole is greater. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. The whole is greater than
the sum of the parts, right? And that's what I was trying to say. And it's true, because if you just do one part or the other part, it's likely you may see some movement, some benefit, but in order to get the benefit that we're able to repeat reliably over and over and over again, you have to put all of the components together, right? And that's very important. And on-site, on-page structure is very important. It starts with that, but then you put all the other things together, and it would just, I mean, it's just incredible what you can do with it. All right. Any other comments on that before we move on?
No, we've got quite a few questions, so let's move on to that.
Let's move on then. All right. So the first question is from Matt. He says, "Hey guys, I have a following question. Is it possible to negotiate with a website owner to place a remarketing pixel in his or her site so I can announce to his visitors? Many of the companies that visit the site, which is a niche news site, often hire my services. And this way I could target similar businesses via display or Facebook all around the web. These websites are not giant, so perhaps we could arrange a monthly fee that provides an additional revenue for them as well. Each extra client in this niche is well worth the effort. Thanks." Yeah, I mean, you could ask. I mean, I've never done that, but maybe somebody here has. But you could certainly reach out to the owners of the site and certainly start a dialogue and find out, like, propose that to them. You know, anybody have any experience with that?
No, I think that the video lead gen system approach could work really well for this, because you start delivering value right off the bat. So I think it would work. I haven't tried it yet, but I think it would work.
Yeah, that's a good point, Hernan. You could create a short video that you would then send to, you know, various people within the company to try to basically pitch or explain what it is that you're trying to do and how it could benefit them. Remember, always frame it and how it would benefit them. You know, make that the primary framing of the actual pitch or the message. And that's something that you could do, is send them some videos via email, and there's other things that you can do now too to get their attention. We talk about that in holistic marketing in the mastermind, but you could certainly do that as a way to kind of get your message in front of them in a non-confrontational way, and hope that they reach back or reach back out or reply. So it's a good idea. Greg's up. He says, what is the best method to do keyword research for video titles and tips on choosing and combining those keywords into a video title? Is it possible to change a video title while it's scheduled? Okay, well, there's a couple things. Obviously, go to MYGB, order keyword research. That's one way to do it. Another way is to go get Power Suggest Pro, one of our favorite keyword tools of all time. In fact, we were just talking about this in another post inside the Facebook group. But Power Suggest Pro, which is loading right now, desktop. If you buy it through our link, semanticmastery.com/powersuggest, it's $57. It's a one-time fee for lifetime access to it. It's incredibly powerful. And also, if you take a look, there's all these different auto suggest or suggest scrapers over here: YouTube, Google, Yahoo, Amazon, eBay, and Bing. So if you're looking for video stuff specifically, then you can obviously just scrape YouTube suggest, and it'll do it very, very quickly. And then you can spit out. And what's great about this is, depending on whether you have recursive on and which level of suffix you use, like it can create these really, really, like pull back these really long tail suggested search phrases. And it's incredible some of the stuff that you can pull back, which means that if it's being suggested, there has been enough manual searches for that it's being suggested, if that makes sense, which means there's traffic there. And a lot of people won't target some of these real long tail things because they look at it and say, well, there's no way that somebody is typing in that query. Well, if it came back from suggest, yes, somebody has typed it in. Like, and it's enough so that Google would auto suggest it. If that makes sense. So it gives you a great point to kind of drill down into creating all types of long tail queries that then you can target. So that's what I would recommend. What is the best method to do keyword research for video titles and tips on choosing? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. There's another really good tool if you're doing advertising. It's Justin Sardi's TubeSift. Semanticmastery.com/TubeSift monthly is our link to it. But that's really cool too, because you can actually use, it will not only do, it's built by the way, it was developed by Ted Chen, the same developer of Power Suggest Pro. So it has like an online version of Power Suggest Pro built into it, but it also will allow you to scrape videos, actual video, YouTube videos for keywords or channels. And then you can even do scraping by related. So like, in other words, you can put a video URL in and it will automatically scrape all the URLs of the video that show up on the right sidebar that show related titles or related videos. So that would be another really good tool that you could use potentially for YouTube stuff. Okay. I use it all the time. I really love that tool. He says, is it possible to change a video title while it is scheduled as a live event, or is that bad practice? Well, you can. Here's the problem. If you change just the video title on YouTube, it will sometimes take a little while to update in Google itself. Okay. Not in YouTube, it'll update like immediately, but in Google, it will take some time because it's usually cached. And the results have to refresh before it'll show. But if you've done any syndication of that scheduled live stream, right? You know, if it's public and it's scheduled, then it will actually, syndicate out across networks. If you change the title, it's not going to change the title on all the places that it's been published. If that makes sense. It will in the embed code, but the actual posts on all of the places that it's been syndicated to, the titles will not change. If that makes sense. So what I would recommend is that you, figure all that out before you actually schedule the public live stream. Okay. T-Back says, I'm a bit confused on binding my IP. I ordered 3 done-for-you syndication networks. Do I need to log into each site in the network to bind to my IP? No, just the Google account. It's just primarily the Google account. You don't have to log into all of them. You can if you want, but it's just the Google account is the one that you want to bind to your IP, so that if you have to log into it at some point to do any updates or anything like that, it's not going to lock you out, and because it doesn't recognize your computer or your IP, excuse me. Okay. He says, and since I ordered 3 different networks for 3 different money sites, can I use the same computer to buy my IP for all 3 networks? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Okay. What I recommend doing is using a clean browser, like use Firefox and clean it before logging into each one. It's fine if it's the same IP, but you're better off if you're going to be doing SEO work, TMAC. I recommend that you use something like Ghost Browser or Browsio. which is, and there's others out there too. Those are just the two that I'm the most familiar with, but that's where you can actually have separate profiles that retain their browsing history. So essentially it's a browsing session that stays live at all times. Like, in other words, you don't have to, the old way would be to go to Firefox and like clear cache and cookies, and then log into a new account again. But that looks odd, because who does that anymore except for SEOs? So you're better off using something like Ghost Browser or Browsio, where you can set up separate sessions, one for each profile, and log into each one of them. And then it remains logged into for that particular session, so that each time you go to, you need to go access that account again, you'll already be logged in. Or even if it prompts you to log in again, it will recognize the IP and it retains your browsing history and all that. It starts to build a real looking profile is what I'm saying. Okay. It's much more natural looking. And that's what people are, Google especially, that's what they're expecting now. So this is a good one for Marco. Marco, I'm wondering about the benefits of an ID page for a national site, non-local. I will be ordering an RYS plus G site. I already have Pearltrees in my syndication network and already have a Press Advantage organization page. What additional benefits will ordering an ID page package from MYGB add for us? Thank you.
All right, so add ID is just schema markup. Right? That's all it is. It's JSON plus LD, structured data. What that page that we create actually is an entity stack. It's an entity iframe stack, so stacked iframes. And if you've ever heard me talk about iframes, you know what the power is in iframes. And when you stack the iframes and link build into the iframes, then you can imagine how much power you're pushing through. Not only that, since it contains all of your company information and authoritative and trusted places where your entity information lives, then what you're doing is you're validating and you're solidifying your entity for BERT, which is it's awesome how that's working right now, and for the newest update.
There you go. And yeah, as mentioned in the SEO Shield presentation that I did, for 15 minutes at the beginning of this webinar, ID pages are not just for local. Originally, when I started developing kind of out what it was, that was my take on it originally, but it's not. ID page is about, it's about pointing, it's telling the semantic bots, right, to go look at this location for entity information. So it applies to any sort of brand, in my opinion, would be an ID page. And so what we do with it is what Marco just said, which is create kind of an iframe stack, right? We call it an iframe loop. Very, very powerful. You can add structured data to your ID page, all of that. So it's very important. Remember, even if you're not a local business, you can still have a corporation or organization markup for it. It's very powerful to do so. And that's what I recommend you do. You're trying to validate that entity. Dan says, what in your opinion may be a good niche for home remodeling for high-end jobs that I could narrow my demographic down for paid ads instead of just kitchen and bath renovations? I'm wanting to find a niche within this big niche to focus my paid ads on a much more targeted niche. Any ideas of niches within this big niche would be greatly appreciated, as I know Bradley has this experience. Yeah, I do. There are a couple others that I would recommend, like deck building, for example, is one. But there's not the thing is, there's not a ton of traffic in any of those. They are very niche, right? They're very specific, and they're still high end. So deck building is one of them. Another one would be man caves, man cave building. Believe it or not, that's really big. I'm not trying to be funny either. She sheds like are actually becoming more and more of a thing. So those types of things that you could do some keyword research around those types. What I found though is that there's not a lot of traffic in those keywords. So you have to target kind of a broader area. You don't really want to go very narrow in your geographic targeting. If you're doing that, especially for ads, you want to keep it more on a general level, as far as like not adding location modifiers to the search queries that would trigger your ads. But you can set your geographic targeting to where only people within a certain area see your ad, but I would leave it as a broader keyword, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, those are just two examples within the remodeling niche. I know what you mean. What I found is bathrooms and kitchens are get the most traffic, but it is very broad. Like I said, from that deck building, Home editions, kind of, again, there's not a lot of traffic in that, but you could look at that. That's also, you know, high dollar. But yeah, home editions, man caves, and what did I say? Deck building. Those are some smaller, more specific niches within remodeling niche. I am building a few rank and rank Google sites without GMBs. Verification is something I don't want to deal with since there is no real business until site is rented. When the G sites go live, okay, so he's using Google Sites. Typically, they debut from page 2 to 6 without much more than on-page and YouTube embeds. Should I wait to see if the site sandbox before sending links to push them? Not with G sites, and I mean, Marco can comment on this too, but in my opinion, no. And I've not seen a G site sandbox. What I've seen G sites do a lot is they'll sometimes take a while to index, or once they index, they might kind of drop out of the index briefly. But if you're adding them to Search Console, they should come back, or not should, they will come back. And they typically come back even if you don't do anything else. I just did a brief update video in the mastermind just yesterday, actually, about my real estate business. I started a blog for that, which was really just to kind of use originally as a teaching point for our mastermind members on how to build location silos using tags. And I'm not going to get into that here, but I was using that as kind of a demonstration, this blog that I set up for my real estate business. And all I've done was two posts, two posts that were optimized and interlinked correctly. And then I mirrored that onto a G site, and then just embedded the post or the tag archive page into the G site page that was mirrored, right? Theme mirroring, that's what we continue to talk about. And I've done no link building to the G site, no link building or anything to the blog itself. And I'm already ranked #1 and #2 position. #1 for the blog post itself on my blog, and #2 for the G site page that is nothing but an embedded blog post. Does that make sense? So it's incredibly powerful. And it took about, I don't know, 4 weeks before that happened. And I haven't done any sort of external work to it. It just took 4 weeks, but within 4 weeks it jumped, and it's now ranking #1 and #2. And the second blog post is #1. The blog post, there was 2 of them. The second one is actually ranked #1 organic for the blog post itself. And now the G site is in the #3 position for that corresponding page. So it's crazy, but I've seen the G sites, well, it'll take a while to index, but then when they do, like you said, it'll come from page 2 to 6 somewhere. Then sometimes they'll drop for a while. And then even if you do nothing else, they'll come back. But what I would recommend doing is go ahead and hit it with links. Marco, what do you say?
You know me. I hit it with a couple of million links. I don't care.
Yeah,
it's gonna rank because I tell it to rank, right? No, it's just the power. It's your SEO shield, man. Why wouldn't you hit it if we know that it's gonna transfer whatever you do to it to good things? We ran that million link GSA test where we threw porn at it. I think Robbie got Fiverr gigs for it. Press releases and link building, and just link building after link building. It just kept getting hammered and hammered. It'll dance like crazy. But unlike your money site, if you were to hit it that way, which will sandbox, and it will sandbox permanently, G sites for some reason, and Google love is my theory that we've shown it time and again that Google loves itself. But it's still, we can't say for sure because we're not Google, and Google won't tell us. But it's that relationship, it's being in that Google ecosystem and having Google protection that allows us to do this. Now, I'm not saying go hire a 10 million Fiverr link gig and hit it, because if you get the tiered link building package the way that Dedia does it through Web 2.0 contextuals, it's going to work that much better than just links that aren't relevant and they're not from trusted and authoritative sources. Dedia has an awesome link network that he's been taking care of for years, and it's building into the millions. And they're all they're niched, they're niche specific, they're themed, they're aged. And then when you get his indexing gig, since he uses multiple indexing services, it'll all index over time. Not all of it, but 50 to 60% of your links will index, and that's going to help index what your G site, your whatever is inside the dry stack, and everything else that's connected to your to your drive stack and G site will benefit from that. And if you want to make your G site the money site, that's perfectly fine, because that's all we did for that million link test.
Yeah. Yeah, kitchen sink span. That's what I'm saying with the SEO Shield, guys. It's incredible, and the G site will take that shit now. And when I say kitchen sink spam, though, you know, as Marco just said, again, we're going to recommend Deddy a link building from MYGB, our own store, because all of the link building packages that he's built and the embed packages have been specifically designed to work with our methods, and it has been for years. Deddy's been working with me since I think 2012 or 13. So we're talking about 6 years that he's been working with me at least. And so he's developed all these things to work with our methods. So it's incredibly powerful. That's what I recommend.
Deddy is in all our groups. He's in RYS
All
Academy. He's in the mastermind. He's in the free phase. He's intimately involved with all of our stuff. He's very knowledgeable with all of our stuff. He follows our training and applies it to his own clients and to his own project. And so with him being so hands-on with everything that we do, I would not rely on anybody else for the link building, because they don't know our stuff the way that Deddy knows it, and the way that I've asked him to set up link building, right? And the process that's involved in his link building. It's specifically designed for this SEO Shield, and to launder link juice and to push it through to your destination, or to keep it within that drive stack plus G site ecosystem.
Yeah. Second question: will adding a custom domain to a G site do anything?
Sorry, Bradley, but also, who else would name himself spammer on a go-kart, field? Like, think about that, right? The guy really takes it seriously. So
that's right. When we were at our live event, he did. He named him, his racer name was Spammer. That was awesome. So his second question: will adding a custom domain to a G site do anything for the site ranking wise? I don't know. Marco might be able to answer that. I know I don't really bother with that anymore. I have messed with that in the past, and it's cool because both URLs will index, both the G site URL as well as the custom domain. It's the same site, but the G site will actually be canonicalized when you custom map a domain to it. The G site will have a canonical tag and that points to the custom domain, but they'll both index, which is probably because it's a Google site. So you can actually have both of them appear in search for the brand. It's crazy, but I don't know if it does anything specifically for SEO, because I stopped doing it because I felt it was unnecessary. Marco, what do you say?
What happens is that the G site becomes the content management system. That's why they won't kill the URL. It stays live so that you can go in and make your changes and edit and do anything else that you need to do, but it's all pointed at the custom domain. Whether it has any benefit, well, it has the benefit of you being able to use a custom domain while maintaining Google's protection. I just don't go that extra step, because I mean, I don't have the G sites. You can make them look really, really good now, and they will convert. They will get you phone calls. They will get you leads. Bradley still gets leads from that ugly ass SEO Virginia G site.
I do. There's no question. All right, last question is: what one thing would you add to my SEO plan that would help these sites move up? The SEO Shield and all of the components that we just talked about. Go back and watch the beginning of the webinar again. We'll probably cut that out and make that a separate video so that people will have that available. Again, Rob is going to be doing some more in-depth training about the SEO Shield and the components, and go into much more detail than I did. I wanted to keep it high level and short. But again, there's no question whatsoever. I don't care what it is that you're doing. You could implement all those, build all those components out, or put all of those pieces together. You don't have to build it out. We can do it for you. You know what I mean? And then use link building and embeds, all of that, press releases. You're going to get results, period.
Yeah, I'm going to point to the case study that's ongoing in our Semantic Mastery Mastermind, done by Deddy, where he took on, and I've mentioned this before, he took on Amazon, Lowe's, just you name it, in the e-commerce space, and it's ranking not number one, but it's ranking on first page for the top market level keyword. Now imagine all of these companies spending millions of dollars in marketing and hundreds of thousands for this specific niche, because it's you know what the niche is, Brady, and it's highly competitive, highly lucrative, and for what it would cost you retail, it's somewhere between $1,000 and $1,200. So imagine being able to own the top market level keyword in your niche for that kind of money, and to be able to compete against the top brands, the very top. Doesn't matter. You say it's medium competition, it's a done deal. I can guarantee that it's a done deal if you follow everything that we've laid out step by step. Don't skip corners. It's hard work. There are no magic pills. I mentioned this during my charity webinar this past Monday. There are no magic pills. This thing is hard work. But what you need to do while you're doing all of these things is to start building your process, right? You start to systematize everything so that you know, okay, the next client that comes on you. So the first one will be practice, or your first, whatever it is that you're trying to do, even if it's your own e-commerce store or whatever, that's practice. But it helps you build your systems, and it helps you to systematize everything so that when you go to the next one, it'll be in place and you know exactly what to do. The battle plan is already laid out as part of that system. You can incorporate that into whatever it is that you do, edit so that it fits whatever it is that you're trying to do. But please, when we talk about this SEO Shield, you cannot skip steps. Oh, I'm not going to do link building. Well, fuck it. You just ruined everything. Well, I'm not going to get a syndication network. You just ruined the entity. Well, I'm not going to get the ad ID page. Well, you just failed to validate and solidify the entity. So everything that we do works hand in hand, and we give it to you the way we give it to you because that's the way that it's supposed to be done.
Very good. Nathan says, what service do you guys use to create new GMBs? Excuse me. We don't. We haven't for several months now because of it's become so much harder. And not only that, but GMBs have been getting terminated or suspended, especially if there's, if they're spammed listings. So we stopped selling them, and I stopped pursuing that method after, several, after the Google wrath, the GMB suspension rampage that they've been on. So, I only lost a handful of GMB assets. Fortunately, literally I could count them on two hands how many I lost. But I stopped going after building new ones. That said, I know that we were having a discussion today about there's a possibility that we may be able to open that GMB verification service up with some disclaimers.
That's under debate, isn't it? Because we were saying
it's being debated because don't count on, don't hold your breath, but there may be an opportunity within MGYB for a brief period of time to get some spam GMB listings. But here's my suggestion: don't do it. Right? If you can avoid getting spammed listings, avoid it. What I mean by that is if you want to create a fake GMB listing or for a lead gen site is what I mean, then I would recommend either using your home address, which I know you asked in your question there, or even using PO boxes still. It still is better because you can actually receive mail there, which I say PO boxes, you can't actually enter the PO box. You got to use the street address option. I've talked about that many times. So just if you haven't heard about it, just go to our Semantic Mastery YouTube channel, use the search channel function and ask, type in PO boxes for GMBs or something like that. And it'll show you all the videos where I've talked about that. But you can use a street address option and that still works. It doesn't mean that they can't be suspended, but it still works for the most part. I know because I've got many of them out there. I did lose a couple of them over the last several months, but I still have most of them. So you can do that. But somewhere where I would recommend that you can actually receive mail as opposed to getting a spam listing, because those tend to get suspended with like a blink of an eye now if you're doing anything to optimize the actual profile once it's been verified. So I recommend just kind of not doing that. So what's the alternative? Well, organic stuff, or if you have the ability to create create a listing where you can actually verify it by US mail, by postcard essentially, then you try to expand that as much as you can using like our local GMB Pro method, which is how you can get better results from a specific GMB than trying to get a bunch of new GMBs. If that makes that what we were talking about for a period of time there, when we were, for probably a good year, we were able to just go get GMBs pretty much anywhere we wanted. And so that was the strategy, was to go out and create as many GMBs as we could in a specific service area, for example. But again, that's not the recommended practice anymore. So Marco, do you have any comments for that?
Yeah, I would say risk versus reward. If you're willing to take the risk and the reward is there, then by all means get a spam listing. It's going to be, it's pretty simple, right? You just purchase it from us. Well, the problem that I'm having is that I can't guarantee anything past 30 days. We used to be able to guarantee 90 days. If anything happened, we'd replace it. But after 30 days, that's it. We're done. We can't guarantee anything past that. So you're on your own. So if on day 31 your listing gets suspended, it's not our. We can't be held responsible for it. We won't. We're going to have that disclaimer all over if we decide to offer it. Risk versus reward. I mean, if you decide to get 1,000 of them, 500 get suspended, but 500 make you money, then it's totally worth it. You decide what it is that you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I just hate rework. I hate putting work into something and then it gets suspended and you lose all that work. And so I've stopped doing any lead gen like spam sites, spam GMB listings for months now because of that. So what Marco said is true. Risk versus reward. Okay, so the next one says, do you think Crowdsearch still works to increase click-through rate, CTR, and rankings? No. Don't use it. Don't use any of them stupid CTR bots or programs, guys. Go buy traffic from Google. Nathan, I'm not trying to jump on you, but just stop it. Stop trying to spam that shit when you can go buy cheap, targeted, relevant traffic from a known Google audience, right? You can buy it using display ads or using YouTube ads. And I've covered this multiple times on Hump Day Hangouts, as well as, this is why I actually pulled this open. We just had a a Google Ads branding course that can be applied to exactly what it is that you're talking about. This is the YouTube training, which was recorded last Monday, not this Monday, this week, but last Monday. And the Google Display Network training is next Monday, December 9th. So again, you can apply it there. We've also talked about, I've talked about it on Hump Day Hangouts many times. We talk about it in the mastermind. There's been a lot of training about it in the mastermind. You can buy traffic, targeted traffic from Google, from a known audience that's in market for products and services that you're trying to promote. And you can specify where those clicks are coming from, those IP clicks, using geo-targeting, right? Geographic targeting, location targeting. And so you can buy it and buy real traffic that actually has a chance to convert, instead of using spam traffic, spoof traffic that Google's going to ignore anyways, because there's no relevant search history in those profiles that are clicking through to the website. It used to work like gangbusters years ago, guys. I used Crowdsearch like crazy. I mean, I had 50,000 credits a month in Crowdsearch, and I used every one of them every month because it worked so well. But Google learned how to prevent that, how to fight that. That click-through spam is what I always called it, CT spam. And so it's basically useless now. You can set up referral traffic campaigns. It's a little bit harder to do, and you can send traffic through other sites like Facebook posts or tweets, for example, and that has some effect still. But you're much better off buying targeted traffic. And I'm not talking about using search ads where you're paying, $10, $15, $20 per click. I'm talking about using display network ads, which you can get for dirt cheap clicks, anywhere between 25 cents to $1.50 per click, depending on what you're talking, what your niche is, or YouTube clicks, right? It's mostly YouTube views, but you can actually get clicks from it. And once again, that's very targeted, heavily weighted traffic, which means you only need a fraction of the amount of click-throughs from heavily weighted, targeted, relevant traffic to get the result, to have the SEO push that a bunch of spam clicks would provide, if that makes sense. There's a lot of activity, relevance, trust, and authority. Art, Marco talks about that all the time. And when you're buying traffic from Google from a known audience that's relevant and from specific geographic locations, you're actually activating all three of those components of activity, relevance, trust, and authority.
Yeah, think about what that does for your proximity when someone close by is clicking on that ad, and you know that might be right around the corner. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I totally agree. Until we can come up with a bot that will emulate human behavior as closely as possible, nothing else matters. Because I mean, why would you do that if you can't get that spam bot to convert? And even if you could get that spam bot to convert on your page, yeah, you'd be sending a great signal to Google, but it wouldn't be worth anything to you. So you could have spent all that time, effort, and money that you're spending on the CTR bot in Google and YouTube ads, and you're going to get real traffic. You're going to get a person, and if you just get a few people to convert, you're going to make your money back plus and then some.
Yeah.
So I mean, it pays for itself over time if you follow the training the way that it's taught.
Yeah, and then set up remarketing lists too, because you're buying traffic, relevant traffic that's likely to convert. But even if it doesn't, you can build that remarketing list, which then you could remarket to, so that when they're ready to make that purchasing decision for your product or service that you're promoting, they're going to be followed around the web by your ads anyway. So again, it's just in my opinion, stop with the CT bot stuff or the click-through spam. It just is it's pointless now. You can buy cheap traffic directly from Google. Okay. The battle plan shows MGYB. We're going to wrap it up in a couple minutes, guys. The battle plan shows that MGYB offers a done-for-you GMB service. However, the links don't work anymore. Yeah, because we had to shut that down.
Yeah, it's shut down.
Yep.
Let's just leave it at that.
Yep. Jeff says, thanks for all the value you guys offer. You're welcome, Jeff. He says, my question for syndication networks, how many articles do you guys have ready to go so that the network is primed with content right out of the chute? Well, typically for a project, for me, I will have 3 to 5 posts. I always say 3 to 5. It just depends on the particular niche. Usually 3 to 5 posts. It also depends on the silo structure of the site. If I've got 3 silos, I might only need 3 posts, 1 for each silo, something like that. But my rule of thumb is 3 to 5 posts. However, keep in mind, you don't want to, when you get a new syndication network, you don't want to, within the first week, publish or syndicate multiple posts to your network. You want to kind of drip those out slowly to start to season that network, that syndication network. Because the Web 2.0 properties, if you start syndicating content too quickly to it, like too frequently, then you can possibly, some of them like WordPress or Tumblr may actually suspend the account for spam, even if it's not spam, even if the posts are valid, genuinely well written or well curated posts, which is what we recommend. It's about how quickly you start syndicating or republishing content to it. So I would recommend, like, for example, I always talked about, and I think this is mentioned in the battle plan, I would do 3 to 5 posts, and I would drip those out, probably 1 post per week over the course of the first month. So the first 3 to 5 weeks, really, I would do 1 post per week. And then after that, I might increase it to 2 posts per week. And then whatever my final frequency of publishing schedule is going to be. I've got a lot of clients out there where we publish, 3 posts per week, and they just syndicate out over and over and over again. And some of those networks have been live and active for many years. So I would just recommend that you kind of, get some content that's going to help to supporting articles that we're going to support the silo structure on your site, and then drip them out slowly over the first month or so. And then you can start to increase your frequency. How often do you regularly post articles to go to the syndication network? It depends. For almost every single client that I have, it's a minimum of 1 post per week, because we also use that to post to GMB. We also will publish a press release that promotes the blog post and the GMB post. If that makes sense. So we kind of interlink everything all together, like the silo structure that I talked about. PR site. Go to mgyb.co. Go click on the webinar button and look at the PR silo, the press release stack in the PR silo webinar that I did with Marco, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But from there, a minimum of 1 per week. Some clients will do as many as three posts per week. All right. Last question, and then we're going to wrap it up. Austin says, hey, for schema for a We Buy Houses investor type site, what would you use professional service? The client isn't a realtor, so that schema doesn't apply. Yeah, I've got my site you can look at, alphaland.realty. You can take a look at the schema markup on that. If we go to view page source, it's the same, because this is a We Buy Land, and it is professional service at type right there. And by the way, in case you guys ever want to know, if you go to this, I'm going to drop this link on the page. This is, as far as I know, it's still the most current. This is a schema list that shows all the different types of businesses and what the proper schema.org business type should be. And so if you scroll down to, I know he's not, your site is not a realtor, but if you have real estate consultant, which is the one that I use for my We Buy Land business, right? And so that would be the same for We Buy Houses. We Buy Real Estate type of business would be a schema.org/professional service, because I consider that, and that's the GMB category that I have is also real estate consultant. Okay. So here, I'll drop this link on the page. That was the wrong page. So that was, who asked that? Austin Dawn. Okay, guys, we need to wrap it up. It's 5 o'clock. We appreciate everybody being here. Sorry if we didn't get to all the questions, but we got to most of them. And we will see you guys next week. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
See you guys.